Hello, this is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here to talk about a pianistic legend, not the person, the work. I'm talking about Alkan's Concerto for Piano Solo, the Concerto pour Piano Seul. This is three movements, of his 12 etudes in all the minor keys, which was his opus 30-something. Here we go. Yes, here they are, opus 39. Now, in case you don't know who Alkan was, his real name was Charles Valentin Morange, Morhange, Morhangy. And of course, he changed his name to Alkan because no one knew how to pronounce Morange. Morange, I can't do it. It rhymes with orange, possibly. But, the problem with Alkan is that in English it's Alkan, which rhymes with Calcan, which is a dog food. So I'm going to try and stick to my version anyway, of a Frenchish pronunciation and call him Alkan. Now, Alkan had the dubious distinction of being A, Jewish, and B, killed by having a bookcase containing the Talmud fall over and crush him to death when he was reaching for one of its volumes. He was a pianistic marvel. Apparently, he even made Liszt nervous. He was one of that great triumvirate, Liszt, Chopin, and Alkan, but his music, after the basic sort of 19th century moment of fame that he had, was completely forgotten. And the reason was because, unlike Liszt or Chopin, who died conveniently young, he lived to a fairly ripe old age. I mean, his dates were, I have them here somewhere. I mean, somebody has to list them on one of these bloody discs. No, nobody cares. Oh, here they are. They care on Hyperion. 1813 to 88. 88, wow. So he had a fairly long life, and he was completely unknown when he died. And the reason is because he became a recluse and essentially hid himself away from the rest of the musical world. Like a lot of those crazy romantics, he kind of flamed out. But he wrote a not huge, but still substantial and incredibly impressive body of piano music that was disregarded for the longest time because it was considered virtually impossible to play. And it is virtually impossible to play. Now, I remember vividly my first encounter was, of course, on the Arabesque label, which published Ronald Smith, who was the Alkan guy. He wrote the books on Alkan, about the man, what we know of him and his music, and he performed it. And he performed it at a time when it was considered impossible for most people to perform it. And he performed it extremely well. I mean, for the most part, there is technical strain. He was not a thrill-packed, insane virtuoso, but he was an intelligent and sensitive musician, and he had more than enough technique to convey what the music was all about. And he made a couple sets of Alkan's music, including the chamber music, and those performances are still worth having. Now, I had that set. It was like a 3-disc set on Arabesque, and you put it on and you go, ooh, oh wow, where has this been all my life? I mean, really. And especially the concerto, which consists of numbers, let's see, it's numbers 3, 4, and 5. No, those are the Petite Fantasies. I'm insane. Numbers 8, 9, and 10. Thank you. Numbers 8, 9, and 10 of the 12 etudes in tous les temps mineurs, in all the minor keys. This is the successor to the set of 12 etudes in all the major keys. And extraordinary works they are. These are not teeny little etudes. The Concerto for Piano Solo has a first movement, which is 30 minutes long, 30 minutes. I mean, it's as long as the entire Liszt sonata. And then there are 2 more movements to go. And because the movements are all, in different keys, the piece is in progressive tonality. It does not end in the same key in which it began. So it is by any means an extraordinary piece. It's extraordinary also in the imitation of orchestral textures in the keyboard parts and in the alternation between solo and orchestral writing. the first movement actually has been orchestrated, and that version is available on Naxos. And I personally think that it's a complete failure. I don't think the piece works at all when you actually substitute an orchestra for the part the piano is supposed to imitate, largely because once you get past the opening tutti, which is orchestral, and the piano entrance, even though the score is marked, orchestra, tutti and solo, it starts to get a little bit jumbled when you get into the middle of the work. And there's just no logic behind when the orchestra comes in or the solo comes in, or it doesn't work. Let's just take my word for it. You stick to the piano original. And once I'd gotten through Mr. Smith here, Ronald Smith, who was, like I said, a wonderful initial guide to Alkan's world, the revelation happened, right? On Music and Arts, we had Marc-André Hamelin's first recording. He did it twice, which we will get to anon. But here was a guy with technique beyond belief, really, who simply took the entire work whole into his being and projected it out to the wider universe. And that was a revelation as a performance. It truly was. And I remember once I was staying in the south of France after the Cannes Classical Music Awards, and I was staying in the home of a very fine, not terribly well-known Russian pianist who shall remain nameless, and I had this CD with me. I'm not quite sure why I did, but I used to carry it around. That's how much I liked it. It was in my luggage. And I took it out. I played it for him. He got so depressed because he had the music. He'd never attempted to play it. We followed along with the score together. And by the time it was over, I think he was ready to give up his career as a pianist. That's how impressive Hamelin was in this recording. And of course, he had also done the Ives Concord Sonata and some other things. I mean, just the extraordinary revelation of a major, major, major artist. So that happened in connection with this Alkan piece, and it was just a wonderful, wonderful moment in my musical life. Since then, the Concerto for Piano Solo is on the verge of becoming a repertory piece. I mean, in the pianistic world, it's kind of like it did for pianists sort of what Tiger Woods did for golf. In other words, Marc-André Hamelin played it, Ronald Smith introduced it, and everyone else had to play catch up, All the other pianists now had this work that they knew that they had to play because they heard Hamelin do it so magnificently, and they thought, aha, I have to be able to do it. And they learned, and now they do it. And so recordings are coming out. The most recent is, I think, on the Avi label with German pianist Shagayeg Nosrati. It's quite fine. She's an excellent pianist, and she can do it. They can do it because they've realized that A, they have to, if they want to be a virtuoso, worthy of the term. And second of all, that the music is magnificent. And that's the point, isn't it? The music is astonishing great music. In fact, most of Alkan's music is astonishing great music and deserves to be heard. It's absolutely marvelous. There's a lost symphony. If anybody's out there and is digging around their basement and they see something that says Morange or Alkan on it, grab it. Anyway, the piece is, like I said, enormous. But the thing that's so fascinating about Alkan's music, for me anyway, is the combination of completely insane virtuosity, but extremely strict form. He was a romantic, but he was a romantic with very, very strong, even severe classical leanings. And so to hear this juxtaposition of unbelievable pyrotechnic dexterity with similarly unbelievably strict formal integrity creates a tension in the music that is unlike anything else. I mean, Chopin doesn't approach it, Liszt doesn't approach it. None of them had that classical severity when it came to musical structure. And so Alkan's music is absolutely unique. It has an absolutely unique sound, and that's it makes this piece for me just, I keep saying absolutely. It is though. I mean, definitively amazing, an amazing, amazing piece of work. Now, I've already talked about 3 recordings that are very good. The first Hamelin on Music and Arts, the Nosrati on a V, the original Ronald Smith. We need to mention Vincenzo Maltempo, the Italian pianist who did a whole series of Alkan's music quite well on piano classics. Much of it was also boxed up and put together by brilliant classics in an Alkan edition. I'm going to get through this, folks. I really am, without calling him Alkan. I'm going to do it. And Maltempo is a wonderful, sort of more romantic, more free pianist than Hamelin is. But, his way with the music is a little bit more swingy and maybe idiomatic for the period. I don't know. More Chopin Liszt style romanticism. But these are first-rate performances and a joy to listen to from beginning to end. Also, new release that just came out, and this one is amazing. Paul Wee on Bis. Now, Wee is an attorney in London who evidently, when he isn't, suing people or doing whatever he does legally, plays the piano like a demon. He out Hamelins Hamelin. This is for pure, uninhibited virtuosity. This is the one you have to hear. You just have to hear it. It's coupled with his symphony for piano solo too, which is an extraordinary work. These tempos are lickety split, breathtakingly quick, but the performance is clear and sharp as crystal. Wee has got a technique that's, really mind-boggling, which also, again, just shows you that once you show that it can be done, the level rises to meet the competition, doesn't it? It's amazing. So this is a version that I absolutely urge you to hear as soon as you possibly can. It is exceptional. Our own piano maven, Jed Disler, reviewed this for ClassicsToday.com and gave it a 10/10 review, and rightly so. It is a knockout. However, if I had to pick one performance, and you knew this is the one that's coming, it's got to be Marc-André Hamelin on Hyperion, his remake. Now, some might find his Music and Arts original to be a little bit more exciting, which it is. It's a little bit more freewheeling in terms of its virtuosity. But I think this performance is the one that captures that tension between formal strictness and total virtuoso insanity that really is what Alkan's music is all about, at least his music in large forms. Now, that earlier recording and some of these other versions have more sort of thrills, you might want to call it. More daredevil risk-taking, more of a sense of danger. This performance is actually almost cool in a way because it's so controlled. But the control is not the control of, I'm going to underplay the music. I'm not going to let the crazy bits sound crazy. The control is simply everything has its place within the larger structure, and I'm going to show you where it goes. It's that kind of control. It's formal control. And Alkan had that formal control, and a great pianist realizes both the virtuoso fireworks and the formal mastery. I can certainly understand if certain listeners prefer performances that seem to be a little bit more exciting and a little bit more virtuosic in the overt sense. But I think that Hamelin really offers something very, very special on this Hyperion recording, and it's the one that I still recommend when I'm having only one. But I got to tell you, this is one of those pieces. It is so big, so comprehensive, so various, so all-encompassing. It's Mahlerian. It's the world. It embraces everything, only in keyboard terms. So frankly, I have my stack here and some more sitting in the shelf. I'm keeping them all. I'm listening to them all. It's that kind of a piece. So if you're interested in the Alkan Concerto for Solo Piano, get one. Get Hamelin, but just get a bunch. Get a bunch of them and keep on listening. Thank you, folks. Enjoy.